anti-gang operations for the City Attorney's Office. With me at council table, it's an old habit. With me at the table to testify is Arturo Martinez, who is one of our deputies in charge, and particularly is assigned to the petition process, as well as two things, and I'll report as quickly as I can to get to the meat of it. The two things that have, so much has come out of this committee and your leadership and Councilmember Hahn's leadership, that I know, having attended this committee so many times in the past 2 years, that I can speak very, very clearly when I say that this committee is essential to my understanding of the gang violence and gang membership reduction efforts in this city. I believe that's true of many other people, and your leadership and Councilmember Hahn's leadership in particular, as well as the other council members who have provided leadership on this subject, is critical to this forward progress that's been described over the past 2 hours. And I just applaud this committee and look forward, frankly, to our appearances here. And appreciate the time I spend here learning, frankly. I'm glad we went last, if we are last. I'm glad we did, because I learned a lot in the last 2 hours, a lot more than I would have learned in 2 weeks in my office, for example, sitting at my desk. That said, there are many things that you and I, as council, and we have been discussing over the past 2 years. But two prominent elements of our discussion are the petition process and the communication process. The communication process is getting public information out to people who need to know in the impacted communities about what gang injunctions are, how they operate, what are some of the myths, what are some of the misconceptions. At the same time, what are some of the concerns in the community that we heard about today? We see that with the Watts Gang Task Force, who played a critical role in that, with the San Fernando Coalition Against Gangs, and you and I have attended that, and I know you've attended many times, as have I now, to learn, but also to educate, so that we can reach a common ground that really that you and Captain Tangridis were talking about, that sense of a common purpose and a common ground. That said, we can, and Mr. Martinez can show and demonstrate to the committee what we're doing with our website to create sort of a library regarding gang injunctions, a library that includes as much public information as, frankly, we can get on there. And that is been enormously assisted by your efforts. The fact, for example, that we know that we have to report to this committee, or that we want to report to this committee on a regular basis, gives Mr. Martinez and myself leverage with our own organization and with the city, frankly, and say, look, we need this done because we have a deadline. Without deadlines, I think we all know that it's rare that anything gets done. Yep. So Mr. Martinez can report on that, but on the petition, if I may, and I know we'll have an ongoing discussion on this next week beyond, and I'll be attending the February 19th presentation that you've been describing with Congressman Scott. I'm very much looking forward to and appreciate your bringing Congressman Scott here and the relationship you've developed with him. I want to learn from that too. That said, the petition process now is underway. We've gone to 20 applications.
Oh, good.
But, which is good, we're moving. But I think, and one thing I hopefully made clear in my letter to yourself, the chairman, which we made part of the record. It's a 5-page letter that answered some of your questions, began some answers to some of your questions. I think that where we're at, I appreciated your questions, because it gave me a chance again to think about where are we at? And I think where we're at now is we need to grow, we need to enlarge and enhance the applicant pool. That's really where we're at. We're at 20 applicants. We need to get 20 more, and 20 more beyond that, or ideally, if we had 40 more. Then everything else flows from that. We'll have discussions over criteria, because we'll have applications. We'll have discussions over the true meaning and impact of a petition process, because we'll have applications. And I think that that has to be, and we'll coordinate with this if you concur in that, and I think you do, but leave that to further discussion. I think that's our big goal in 2009, is to make this petition process part of the expression you used, frankly, last year, the fabric of our law enforcement, of our efforts here in the city. And once it's part of the fabric, and I think we're getting there, then let's get applications. Because if we don't have applications, we really don't have enough of a pool to examine and say what's working and what isn't. With 20 applications, I can give you, Mr. Martinez has assisted me greatly, and I should say I'm assisting him, really, in analyzing what those 20 look like. And just to give you staying confidential and keeping the key confidentiality and privacy of the process, I can tell you that we're seeing the following breakdown just among the first 20. And I'm using this, it's not that can't be a scientific number that gives us a real...
Just an update.
Just an update. We're seeing, we still have 1 approved, we have 7 pending, we have 1 that was withdrawn upon further reflection. I think the person just realized that they weren't even in an injunction area. The 11 that haven't been approved are not, that, as everyone needs to know, that's not a final decision, that's a process, people can reapply. But what we see from the 11, and this is, I think, interesting, 7 of those 11 picked up ongoing gang, either charges or arrests with the pending application. That was a pretty high number, actually, and I think is going to help us fine-tune our message to people. 7 out of 20 is a pretty high number, over 25%, that makes us say, makes us think we need to get the message out more to our partners in the community that this process really should be for, ideally, for those people who are really making an effort to stay out of situations that are going to lead to arrests. I know that's never going to be perfect, but 7 out of 20 was pretty high. 4 of the 11, or 4 of the 20, were simply cases where they're either premature, the person had never been served, or there was no record of service. So that number made sense to us. We thought 25% of the 20, 4 out of the 20.
But of all of the 20 applications, even the one that withdrew sounds like because maybe they weren't even on an injunction.
Correct.
But the bottom line is, of all those 20 applications, is it fair to say that there was some semblance of personal education toward that individual just by engaging with the process?
Oh, yes, on both sides. Education for the person, because the process is so intensive, requires interviews, both with Los Angeles City Attorney as well as with the police if they want to. And on our part, because this is what, without doing this, we would have no basis to even think about what the next stage is. So on both sides, we're learning.
Okay, so that was one of the main things that I wanted to find out by agendizing this item is whether it was 2 applications received or 20 or 100 by now. I just wanted to make sure that something that I have always felt is happening in the city attorney's office is that this is a dynamic process. This is not a stagnant process, that there's education going on and learning going on within the city attorney's office who is implementing this process, and also all the other players involved who are encouraging people to apply and or individuals who are applying. So unquestionably, there's learning going on, and this process is dynamic, and it is changing and conforming, hopefully, to become a better process every day.
Yes, that I can confirm, and thank you for stating that, because I think that I will then, and Mr. Martinez will go back to those folks who in our office who work on this and get that message to them directly, to underline that, because I think that is what we see eye to eye on that, and I think they see eye to eye with you on that, and that will help them to know that they're going the right direction, that this is a dynamic process. Mr.
Martinez, anything you want to?
Yes, Council Member. In response to your comment, our office has actively engaged in the education process. As you well know, having attended our intervention training on both the enforcement of gang injunctions as well as the removal petition process, we're getting the word out there. We've reached out to our neighborhood prosecutor program and school safety prosecutor program and asked them to distribute and disseminate the removal petitions. At every opportunity that we get, we make sure that the message is getting out that this process does exist. In fact, it is a component part of the LAPD training that we conduct. When we train them on how to do injunction enforcement, we also train them about the removal petition process. And now our protocols are that when there is a new injunction that's served on individuals, a copy of the removal petition is served with that. And so that it's everything we can do as a prosecutorial agency to get the word out, to increase that applicant pool and to engage community groups like the Watts Gang Task Force, who were instrumental in this process, to engage the interventionists, to engage the ad hoc committee, every which way we can and every help we can get. That's what we've been trying to do to get the word out.
Excellent.
If I may, and I know
Yes.
your time has to be short, but just to give I know I've privately, I think, mentioned this to you, but to put it on the record, we've done, I think I heard the number like a half dozen trainings mentioned earlier today. I think 2 years ago when we thought about how many trainings we were going to have, we thought about a half dozen. We've actually, with LAPD, but now with the public, with members of the community as well, we're up over 150 trainings since we started. I mean,
Wow.
Training is the metaphor I use, which is just someone else's metaphor that I am borrowing, is it's like painting the Golden Gate Bridge. You just never stop. There is no, you get to the end and you start over again because everyone's forgotten what you told them before, and that's not a criticism of the people who are being
That's
trained.
just the human nature.
Human nature. So we expect more rather than
Excellent.
less.
And also to show how formal and important this is to the council, I'm going to be introducing a motion probably in the next few days asking that the petition materials be available at each one of the public safety committee meetings of the city council and also this ad hoc committee as well. And as it goes through the process, there might be recommendations of other forums, traditional ongoing forums that we need to make sure that we have these petitions at. So
That, I apologize for cutting you off. That's great because that really helps ensure that it's dynamic. I know that Mr. Martinez is a very creative person. I try to be, but even then we're limited. It's limitations that 2 people have
Sure.
or 4 people have.
Mhm.
By having your additional input, your staff's input, and this committee's input, we multiply that by so much. Watts
Okay.
Gang Task Force is the same way. I could go on, but I want to make sure I mention it.
And I would never expect that somebody from the city attorney's office needs to stand there while the materials are available. It's up to the committee to actually note to the community and the people who are there in the room that they are available, and then just to make people understand that this is another place in which you can get it. Just like some materials that most Americans know, I get that at the post office. I can walk in any post office and I can get that. And this will be like the post office for this committee, and at least one other committee of the city council will be one of the post office places where they can come and get this material. Okay, anything else?
And council member, to facilitate those efforts, we do on a regular basis update our website. Our website
Excellent.
does have the removal petition in English and Spanish, and it is in PDF form, so anyone with access to the internet can print it out. In addition, those materials that are on the website on the internet are available with a phone call to our office. We do have them in print, and we will mail them to whoever wants them. And then just to follow up on that matter, at the last ad hoc, we had previewed our website, and we had provided all the contents in a binder that you now have, and the contents of that binder are now in electronic form and part of the record and have been provided to the clerk's office. And it's depending on your time, we could certainly demonstrate where we are from that last time in October to where we are today with our website as it is set up and available for your review.
Or we can show your staff at a later date. One thing I can say, I hope this is true, and Mr. Martinez is making this happen, and I am technologically behind the times. I know what I want to see, but I don't necessarily know how to make it happen. He knows how to make it happen. I believe we even have links. We have links to a grand jury report on gang injunctions. I think we have made an effort, and I believe linked to your report. In other words, showing that there's a connection, that if you come to this, Chairman Cardenas also has a report. I'd like to see that. You can link over to it.
And if somebody educates themselves at that level, they're very likely going to be one of the conduits in the community to making sure other people understand how real this process is.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Thank Thank you. Anybody here for public comment on item number 3? We are currently on item number 3, and it's open for public comment. Seeing no one having filled out a form, a card, or coming forward on public comment on item number 3, public comment on item number 3 is closed. Therefore, we'll note and file this report on item number 3. Now, we will go to item number 5.
Item number 5 is a communication from the mayor and the city administrative officer relative to a reappropriation of funds for the Justice Assistance Grant Program. On February 9, 2009, the Public Safety Committee recommended approval of the recommendations of the CAO.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Melissa Fleming with CAO. The mayor's office is requesting about $145,000 in salary and related cost funds be reappropriated and transferred to the city attorney's office and the mayor's office for salaries and related cost expenses for the 2006 Justice Assistance Grant for this fiscal year.
Okay. And these are one position each?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. And it's consistent with our responsibilities and adhering to the responsibilities of the grant, correct?
That's correct. This was within the original expenditure program of the grant. We're just returning so we can get this fiscal year's allocations.
Okay. Anything else?
That pretty much covers it.
Okay. And as far as we can tell, the grant process is going forward just fine. It's not dysfunctional as was described on other activities going on in the city?
Julie Crane, Mayor's Office of Homeland Security and Public Safety. The grant is going as planned.
Okay, good. All right. Okay, with that, that item will be a recommendation of the chair to approve. And is it scheduled for another committee?
No, council member. It goes straight to council after this committee concurs with public safety.
Okay, so this committee does concur with public safety, no amendments. Okay, now we go to item number 6.
Item number 6 is a communication from the mayor relative to extending the professional services agreement between the city of Los Angeles and the county of Los Angeles for the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistant Grant. Also on February 9th, the Public Safety Committee recommended approval of the recommendations of the mayor.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add?
No, it's a pretty basic change. There's no change to the program. It's just for the date.
Okay, and this is relative to the clear sites?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I don't see any public comment cards on this item either. Public comment is open on this item. Seeing and hearing none, public comment is closed. And with that, there are no more questions from this committee, so this item will concur and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is anybody here for general public comment to this committee? General public comment is now open. Seeing and hearing none, general public comment is now closed. With that, this committee is now adjourned.